Hello, my name is Tim Hughes. I'm Director of Communications for Spirit Invest. Today I want to address the question of the global risks facing South Africa and what South Africa could do to address them. The IMF has now lowered the global economic forecasts to now 3% or below, and particularly in the developed economies, such as the United States. Forecast growth is now only 1.8%. In the EU, economic growth forecast is 0.8%. Significantly, now China's forecast growth is below 5% and is hovering around about 4.3%. So these represent all South Africa's major trading partners. Here in South Africa, our growth forecast for 2025 has been lowered to 1%, which represents 2% what is required to show any meaningful economic growth in South Africa. So besides a global economic environment that is very challenging, South Africa now faces, if you like, the threat or the impact of President Trump's or United States tariffs that not only will affect South Africa's exports, minerals for example, possibly motor vehicles, but importantly it will in fact affect our imports as well, given that we are highly dependent on imports in South Africa, particularly of manufactured and electronic goods. In other words, the manufactured goods that themselves come from Europe via the United States or China, these manufactured goods will now carry extra tariffs, which makes them more costly in South Africa. So we're facing a very significant inflationary challenge in South Africa and a cost of living challenge. Added to that, we have shot ourselves in the foot at least twice this year by failing to deliver a budget. And this has made international markets nervous of South Africa, local investors nervous as well. It is the first time that Treasury has been under question in South Africa since 1994, possibly with the exception of the period of Des van Rooyen. But one has always been able to rely on the Treasury to be a strong, well-capacitated, clear and leading institution, essentially holding South Africa's economy and the cabinet together. This has now been undermined. So it is very, very important that South Africa and the Minister of Finance delivers a very strong, clear budget on the 21st of May this year. The second area that South Africa needs to address to try and boost economic growth is the launch of Operation Vulindlela, the second part of Vulindlela. And that's really an infrastructure program developed or conceptualized out of the presidency. It's a welcome development insofar as it addresses water challenges, electricity, infrastructure, and very importantly for our country, municipal reform. But what is absolutely required for South Africa to get out of this morass, to get out of the economic challenges facing it in 2025 is growth, private sector growth, public sector investment, a liberalization of the economy, investment in infrastructure, getting rid of red tape. And literally we have 6 months to turn things around in South Africa before we see the impact of a very, very difficult economic environment. So this really is a message from Spirit Invest to the government and to investors. Let's boost economic growth in South Africa. We have to get above 1% and we should be aiming for 3%. So let's see what happens on May the 21st with the budget, and my colleagues will also comment on this after the fact. We look forward to speaking to you next time.